They thought they had you figured out. They thought you would stay stuck in the version of you that they broke, but what they didn't realize is that a Sigma female is like a phoenix. When the world tries to burn her down, she uses that same fire to forge a newer, sharper, and more brilliant version of herself. People are looking at you now, and they are butterflied, stunned, nervous, and unable to process how you transformed so completely. Your glow-up isn't just about your reflection in the mirror, it's about the total reinvention of your soul. Today, we are exploring why your ability to rise from the ashes is the ultimate karma to those who counted you out. Most people are terrified of change. They cling to their old habits and their comfortable miseries, but to a Sigma female, change is a weapon. She knows exactly when to disappear, when to rebuild, and when to emerge. When you walk away from a toxic situation, you don't just move on, you reprogram. When you return, you aren't just better, you are unrecognizable. Let's look at some ways your reinvention is leaving people speechless and why your new energy is making them question everything they thought they knew about you. 1. The power of ghost mode. The transformation of a Sigma female begins not with a loud announcement, but with a sudden deafening withdrawal from the world known as ghost mode. While the average person feels an almost pathological need to broadcast their journey of self-improvement, posting gym selfies, sharing motivational quotes, or updating their social media status with work-in-progress captions, the Sigma female understands that true growth requires the absence of an audience. She recognizes that the energy spent explaining her goals to others is energy stolen from the execution of those goals. Consequently, she enters the silence of the chrysalis, a period of intentional isolation where she severs the digital and social ties that tether her to her old identity. To the outside world, this disappearance is often misinterpreted. Her acquaintances, her ex-partners, and even her casual friends might assume she has finally broken under the weight of her circumstances. They see her empty social media feed and her unanswered messages as evidence of defeat, grieving, or a desperate need to hide from the world. They comfort themselves with the narrative that she is down for the count, unaware that she is actually in the lab, meticulously dismantling every aspect of her life that no longer serves her higher purpose. This period of silence is where the real work happens. In the shadows, away from the prying eyes and the unsolicited opinions of others, she is engaging in a radical reprogramming of her mind, body, and spirit. She is waking up at 5 a.m. to master a new skill. She is spending hours in solitary reflection to heal her emotional wounds, and she is restructuring her daily habits with military precision. She does not seek validation for this work because she knows that external praise is a fickle drug that can distract her from her internal mission. By the time the world has written her off as a forgotten memory, she has already evolved into a different species entirely. The chrysalis phase is about the death of the ego. She is not interested in being liked for her potential. She is interested in becoming a powerhouse. The shockwave occurs when she finally decides that the transformation is complete and she makes her royal re-emergence. This is not a staged debut designed for attention. It is simply the natural byproduct of her returning to the world as a superior version of herself. When she finally steps back into the light, she doesn't just look different, she is different. Her posture is taller, her gaze is sharper, and her aura radiates a calm, untouchable authority that leaves people breathless. The very individuals who were whispering about her downfall are now stunned into a nervous silence. They don't know how to react because the version of her they knew, the one they thought they had figured out or mastered, no longer exists. You have bypassed their expectations so thoroughly that you have become a stranger to them. This sudden contrast between their low expectations and your high-level reality creates a psychological butterfly effect in their stomachs. They realize with a sinking feeling that while they were busy gossiping about your absence, you were busy outgrowing them. Your silence wasn't a sign of weakness. It was the quiet before the storm that has now arrived to rewrite the rules of your existence. If you've ever gone ghost mode, just to focus on your own goals. Drop a shushing emoji in the comments. It's the ultimate power move. Also, subscribe if you're tired of the noise and ready for more Sigma content. Now, while your silence confuses them, your new way of thinking will absolutely terrify them. Let's look at your intellectual evolution. 2. The intellectual evolution, the cerebral ascendance. A Sigma female's transformation is never merely aesthetic, it is deeply, fundamentally cerebral. While the rest of the world equates a glow-up with superficial alterations, new clothes, a different hairstyle, or a curated Instagram aesthetic, you recognize that the most potent form of power resides in the mind. During your period of strategic withdrawal, you did not just rest. You conducted a massive overhaul of your internal hardware. You turned your solitude into a private university, diving into the books you once ignored, mastering complex new skills, and subjecting your own belief systems to rigorous scrutiny. This intellectual evolution is the silent engine behind your new presence. You have spent hundreds of hours in deep work, absorbing information that broadens your horizon and sharpens your analytical edge. You didn't do this to impress anyone. You did it because a Sigma female understands that knowledge is the only currency that never devalues. By the time you reappear in social circles, you are carrying a mental arsenal that makes your previous self look like a rough draft. The shock occurs the moment you open your mouth. When people finally speak to you again, expecting the same predictable patterns of thought and the same safe topics of conversation, they are met with a jarring realization. You have moved on to a completely different intellectual plane. Your vocabulary has shifted. It is no longer filled with the linguistic fillers of the unsure, but with the precise, weighted words of someone who thinks before they speak. Your perspective has deepened to the point where you can see the meta-narratives behind mundane events. You no longer participate in the small talk of your past, the gossip, the complaining, and the trivialities that most people use as social glue, because your brain now finds those frequencies static and draining. Instead, you speak on philosophy, strategy, global shifts, or the intricate mechanics of your latest craft. Your arguments have become airtight, forged in the furnace of solitary study and self-correction. You don't just state opinions. You present evidence-based conclusions with a calm, terrifying clarity that leaves no room for petty rebuttal. This creates an immediate intellectual gap that acts as a profound intimidator. Those who used to feel superior to you, or even equal to you, suddenly find themselves struggling to keep up. They realize that while they were consuming mindless entertainment and stagnant social media loops, you were building a fortress of wisdom. The dynamic has shifted. They can no longer handle you with their old tactics because they can no longer predict your logic. This gap creates a sense of butterflies or unease in them because it highlights their own mental stagnation. They feel small not because you are trying to diminish them, but because your growth is a mirror reflecting their lack of effort. They stay silent because they are afraid that if they speak, they will reveal how far behind they've fallen. You have become a cognitive elite, and the realization that you have outgrown the very intellectual environment they still inhabit is the most devastating part of your reinvention. You aren't just a prettier version of yourself. You are a smarter, more formidable version that they can no longer reach. 3. Emotional stoicism, the unshakable foundation. The most unsettling aspect of your reinvention for those who once knew you is the sudden, chilling arrival of your emotional stoicism. In the past, they might have remembered a version of you that was more human in the traditional, vulnerable sense. Someone who was reactive, perhaps a bit too transparent with her feelings, and certainly easier to wound with a sharp word or a calculated cold shoulder. They were used to a version of you that offered them the satisfaction of a reaction. They knew which buttons to push to elicit a defense, a tear, or an explanation. However, as you underwent your silent transformation, you effectively rewired your emotional nervous system. You moved away from the frantic, shallow waters of constant reaction and descended into the depths of a vast, calm ocean. Now you possess a level of internal stability that makes you appear almost supernatural to those still trapped in the cycle of petty drama. No provocation can ruffle your feathers, no backhanded compliment can pierce your skin, and no petty insult can move you from your center. You have developed a psychological immunity that renders the toxicity of others completely inert. This newfound emotional gravity is terrifying to people, especially those who used to derive a sense of power from getting a rise out of you. To a manipulator or a toxic acquaintance, your reaction was their oxygen. It confirmed that they still had a tether to your psyche and that they could control your mood at will. When they attempt their old tactics now, they are met with a wall of serene indifference that is far more devastating than anger. You don't get defensive because you no longer care about their perception of you. You don't argue because you realize that your peace is worth more than being right in the eyes of someone you no longer respect. Your face remains a mask of calm composure, not because you are suppressing your feelings, but because those feelings simply do not exist in relation to them anymore. You have achieved a state of apatheia, not a lack of feeling, but a freedom from irrational suffering and the erratic whims of others. They look at you and wonder, with a mix of awe and genuine fear, where the old you went. They search your eyes for a glimmer of the hurt they used to be able to cause, but they find only a reflective surface that offers them nothing but a mirror of their own smallness. They do not realize that the girl they could once manipulate didn't just grow up. She was systematically replaced by a sovereign woman who is far more powerful. This stoicism is the ultimate butterfly inducer because it signals a total loss of leverage. They can no longer predict you, they can no longer hurt you, and they can no longer find a way back into your head. You have become an emotional fortress, and the realization that their influence over you has been reduced to zero is a psychological death blow to their ego. They are forced to confront the fact that while they stayed the same, playing the same petty games, you evolved into something they can no longer touch. 4. The physical presence, the sovereign stature. The fourth dimension of your reinvention is the emergence of a physical presence that commands the room without uttering a single word. In your previous era, your style and posture might have been a subconscious plea for acceptance or a quiet attempt to blend into the background to avoid unwanted scrutiny. Perhaps you dressed to fit a trend or to satisfy the gaze of others, seeking external validation through the lens of modern fashion. But that version of you has been retired. Now your physical presentation has undergone a metamorphosis driven by a deep internal intentionality. You no longer dress to be noticed, you dress to be remembered. There is a profound difference between the two. Being noticed is a fleeting moment of visual consumption, but being remembered is an indelible mark left on the observer's psyche. You have moved away from the loud, fast-fashion desperation of the masses and embraced a style that is timeless, curated, and reflective of your internal order. You aren't following trends because you realize that trends are for the followers. You are projecting an aura of absolute self-respect. This physical glow-up is anchored in a new relationship with your body. Your fitness is no longer about punishing yourself to meet a societal standard, but about honing your vessel into a high-functioning instrument of your will. This discipline shows in the way you carry yourself. Your posture has shifted from the defensive, slightly hunched stance of someone trying to minimize their presence to the upright, open and relaxed stature of a sovereign. You occupy your space with a calm entitlement that signals you are exactly where you belong. When you walk into a room, there is a gravity to your movement, a deliberate, unhurried pace that suggests the world waits for you rather than the other way around. This isn't arrogance. It is the physical manifestation of someone who finally knows exactly what she is worth. You have stopped performing femininity or strength and have started simply embodying them. The psychological impact of this physical presence on others is immediate and jarring. When people encounter you, they find themselves experiencing an instinctual butterflying effect. Your physical confidence acts as a silent demand for respect that forces everyone in your vicinity to subconsciously adjust their behavior. They stop their loud talking, They straighten their own posture, and they choose their words more carefully. They sense that the casual access they once had to you has been revoked. You have created a physical boundary of high-value energy that dictates the terms of engagement. People who once felt they could overlook you now find it impossible to look away, yet they feel a strange hesitation to approach. They are witnessing the glow-up in its most literal form, a radiance that comes from the alignment of your physical form with your mental power. You have become a living masterpiece, and the sheer intentionality of your existence makes them realize that the old, disorganized version of you is gone forever, replaced by a woman who is as sharp and polished as a blade. 5. The toxicity audit, the silent culling. The most ruthless and necessary stage of your reinvention was the toxicity audit, a cold, systematic evaluation of every person who occupied a seat at the table of your life. While others might have spent months embroiled in messy confrontations, dramatic breakup conversations, or long-winded explanations of why they were unhappy, you opted for the Sigma specialty, the silent removal. You realized that your energy is a finite, precious resource, and for too long it had been harvested by parasites, energy vampires, and fair-weather friends who only celebrated you when you were at their level. As you began your journey of self-actualization, you didn't feel the need to argue, justify, or even announce your departure. You simply withdrew the access. You changed your habits, your circles, and your digital footprints, leaving the toxic elements of your past staring at a locked door they no longer have the key to. You understood that explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you is a waste of your new, sharpened intellect. By the time they noticed you were gone, you were already miles ahead, having left them behind in the dust of their own stagnant drama. This silent culling is a form of psychological karma that hits with a precision no argument could ever achieve. When you argue with someone, you are still giving them your energy. You are still acknowledging their relevance in your narrative. But when you simply vanish into your own greatness, you leave them with a terrifying lack of closure. They are left to wonder what they did wrong, why they were excluded, and, most painfully, why you don't seem to miss them. The butterflies they feel when they see you now are born from the realization that you have categorized them as irrelevant. They are no longer a character in your story. They are barely a footnote. You have treated them like an old version of software that is no longer compatible with your upgraded operating system. This total withdrawal of access is a power move that reclaims your autonomy and signals to the universe that you are finally serious about your own peace. Furthermore, seeing you thrive in their absence is the ultimate sting to their ego. Most of these people operated on the subconscious belief that you were the problem, that your complexity or your intensity was the reason for the friction. However, your post-audit success provides irrefutable evidence to the contrary. As you rise in your career, your fitness, and your mental clarity, the truth becomes blindingly obvious. They were the anchor holding you down. Without their constant drain, their subtle negging, and their emotional baggage, you have achieved more in a few months than you did in years of being connected to them. Your success is a living indictment of their influence. They are forced to watch from the sidelines as you become the best version of yourself, knowing that they had a front-row seat to your life and they squandered it. They are butterflied by the realization that you didn't just survive losing them, you flourished because of it. You have turned the loss of their friendship into the greatest gain of your life, proving that the best way to move forward is to leave the weight behind without a second thought. If you've recently cleared out the toxic people in your life, give this video a like. It lets the algorithm know we're choosing peace over drama, but cleaning your circle is only half the battle. You also have to build your own safety net. This is where your financial sovereignty comes in. 5. The toxicity audit. The silent culling. The most ruthless and necessary stage of your reinvention was the toxicity audit, a cold, systematic evaluation of every person who occupied a seat at the table of your life. While others might have spent months embroiled in messy confrontations, dramatic breakup conversations, or long-winded explanations of why they were unhappy, you opted for the Sigma specialty, the silent removal. You realize that your energy is a finite, precious resource, and for too long it had been harvested by parasites, energy vampires, and fair-weather friends who only celebrated you when you were at their level. As you began your journey of self-actualization, you didn't feel the need to argue, justify, or even announce your departure. You simply withdrew the access. You changed your habits, your circles, and your digital footprints, leaving the toxic elements of your past staring at a locked door they no longer have the key to. You understood that explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you is a waste of your new, sharpened intellect. By the time they noticed you were gone, you were already miles ahead, having left them behind in the dust of their own stagnant drama. This silent culling is a form of psychological karma that hits with a precision no argument could ever achieve. When you argue with someone, you are still giving them your energy. You are still acknowledging their relevance in your narrative. But when you simply vanish into your own greatness, you leave them with a terrifying lack of closure. They are left to wonder what they did wrong, why they were excluded, and, most painfully, why you don't seem to miss them. The butterflies they feel when they see you now are born from the realization that you have categorized them as irrelevant. They are no longer a character in your story. They are barely a footnote. You have treated them like an old version of software that is no longer compatible with your upgraded operating system. This total withdrawal of access is a power move that reclaims your autonomy and signals to the universe that you are finally serious about your own peace. Furthermore, seeing you thrive in their absence is the ultimate sting to their ego. Most of these people operated on the subconscious belief that you were the problem, that your complexity or your intensity was the reason for the friction. However, your post-audit success provides irrefutable evidence to the contrary. As you rise in your career, your fitness, and your mental clarity, the truth becomes blindingly obvious. They were the anchor holding you down. Without their constant drain, their subtle negging, and their emotional baggage, you have achieved more in a few months than you did in years of being connected to them. Your success is a living indictment of their influence. They are forced to watch from the sidelines as you become the best version of yourself, knowing that they had a front-row seat to your life, and they squandered it. They are butterflied by the realization that you didn't just survive losing them, you flourished because of it. You have turned the loss of their friendship into the greatest gain of your life, proving that the best way to move forward is to leave the weight behind without a second thought. If you've recently cleared out the toxic people in your life, give this video a like. It lets the algorithm know we're choosing peace over drama. But cleaning your circle is only half the battle. You also have to build your own safety net. This is where your financial sovereignty comes in. 6. Financial sovereignty, the architecture of freedom. Financial sovereignty is the concrete foundation upon which the Sigma female's new empire is built, serving as the ultimate practical manifestation of her internal reinvention. In your previous chapters, there may have been a subtle, perhaps even unconscious, reliance on others for security, stability, or the permission to live a certain lifestyle. Whether it was a partner who held the purse strings, a job that stifled your potential, or a general lack of resource management, that financial tether was a leash that allowed the world to dictate your boundaries. But during your period of silent transformation, you recognized a fundamental truth. True autonomy is impossible without economic independence. You stopped waiting for a promotion, stopped asking for a seat at the table, and started building your own. You shifted from a consumer mindset to a builder mindset, either by pivoting into a high-stakes career path, scaling a successful side hustle that reflects your true passions, or mastering the disciplined management of your existing resources. Your financial independence is no longer a goal. It is a visible, undeniable reality that radiates from your lifestyle and your choices. This shift into sovereignty is what makes you truly dangerous to those who once sought to control you. Control, in its most common form, is often exercised through the subtle threat of withdrawal, the fear that if you don't comply, you will lose access to comfort, status, or survival. By securing your own bag, you have effectively rendered that entire system of manipulation obsolete. You have removed the hook that people use to keep you in line. When you no longer need anyone to pay your rent, fund your ambitions, or provide your sense of security, you become an unpredictable force. You are no longer bought, which means you cannot be sold on a narrative that doesn't serve you. You have gained the power to say no to toxic opportunities, no to manipulative partners, and no to soul-crushing environments because you have the resources to walk away and stay away. This financial fortress is not just about the numbers in your bank account. It is about the exit strategy it provides you in every single interaction. The psychological impact of your financial sovereignty on others creates a profound butterflying effect of unease and respect. People who were used to seeing you as someone who could be persuaded or pressured now find themselves facing a woman who is completely unyielding. They see the quality of your life, the calmness of your decisions, and the lack of desperation in your eyes, and they realize that their leverage has vanished. They are butterflied by the realization that you have bypassed the traditional power structures they still struggle with. You didn't just get lucky, you engineered a life where you are the sole decision-maker. This independence is a silent threat to those who thrive on being needed. They realize that to be in your life now, they must offer something far more valuable than money or security. They must offer genuine substance because you already have the rest covered. You have transformed yourself from a dependent variable into a sovereign power, and the world is forced to adjust to a woman who is officially off the market of manipulation. 8. Strategic mystery, the fortress of privacy. The eighth pillar of your profound reinvention is the deliberate cultivation of strategic mystery, a total shift from being an open book to becoming a locked vault. In an era where oversharing is considered a social requirement and privacy is often treated as a suspicious anomaly, your decision to withdraw into a closed book status is a radical act of self-sovereignty. You have come to the profound realization that your private life, your internal thoughts, and your future plans are high-value luxuries, not public commodities to be traded for likes or casual conversation. During your transformation, you performed a digital and social scrub, removing the breadcrumbs that once allowed people to track your emotional state or your daily movements. You stopped posting about your victories, your struggles, and your location. This isn't about being secretive out of fear, it is about being selective out of power. By withholding information, you have reclaimed the narrative of your life, ensuring that only those who have earned your trust get to see the real you. This strategic mystery creates a massive butterfly effect in the minds of those who once felt they had a front-row seat to your life. Human nature detests a vacuum, and your silence has created an information void that your old circle is desperately and unsuccessfully trying to fill. People are naturally unsettled by what they cannot categorize or track. Because they can no longer find information on you, they can no longer gossip about you with any degree of accuracy. They find themselves stuck in a loop of eternal speculation, unable to confirm if you are dating someone new, where you are traveling, or how you achieved your recent success. Gossip requires data to survive, and by starving the rumor mill of its fuel, you have rendered your enemies and the curious spectators completely powerless. They realize that they no longer have a grip on your reality. This lack of access creates a psychological itch they cannot scratch. They are fascinated by your transformation, but frustrated by the wall of silence you've built around it. Furthermore, this silence has turned you into a living enigma, a mystery that everyone wants to solve, but no one can crack. In the past, being knowable made you manageable. Now, being a mystery makes you formidable. There is a specific kind of magnetism that comes from a woman who doesn't feel the need to explain herself. When you do occasionally reappear in social or professional settings, your presence carries more weight because people know so little about what you've been doing. Every word you speak and every move you make is analyzed with 10 times the intensity because it is the only data point they have. You have effectively shifted the power dynamic. They are now the ones observing and analyzing, while you remain the unbothered subject of their intrigue. Your private life is now your sanctuary, a fortress where you build your empire in the dark so that the world only sees the finished product. You have learned that the best way to protect your growth is to keep it a secret, leaving the world to wonder how you became so radiant while they were busy looking the other way. 9. The radiance of peace, the ultimate sovereign victory. The final, most devastating and undeniably powerful sign of your reinvention is the emergence of a profound, unshakable peace. While the earlier stages of your glow-up focused on the external and the intellectual, this stage is purely spiritual and psychological. It is the radiance of peace, a state of being where your internal frequency is so stable that it is no longer affected by the noise of the outside world. In a society that thrives on the hustle, the clapback, and the constant need for public validation, your tranquility is a radical act of rebellion. You have reached a point where you are no longer in competition with anyone. You have realized that the only person you ever needed to outrun was the version of yourself that didn't believe she was enough. This realization has stripped away the exhausting need to prove your worth to anyone, especially not to your ex, your enemies, or the people who once looked down on you. You don't feel the urge to show them what they're missing because you are too busy enjoying what you have found within yourself. This inner peace is the most enviable thing about you, acting as a beacon of high-value energy that both attracts and intimidates. Most people spend their entire lives chasing the next hit of dopamine from drama, conflict, or social approval. They are perpetually on, scanning for threats to their ego or opportunities to boost their status. But you have simply stepped out of the arena. You are living for yourself, by your own rules, and for your own joy. This creates a massive butterfly effect in those who watch you from the sidelines. They see you moving through life with a calm, light-hearted grace that they cannot replicate. They see that you aren't bitter, you aren't vengeful, and you aren't looking over your shoulder. While they are still trapped in the frantic cycle of chasing drama and seeking the next target for their insecurity, you have secured the one thing that money, status, and attention cannot buy: a quiet mind and a settled soul. This peace is your ultimate weapon because it renders you completely untouchable. When someone tries to pull you back into a petty argument or trigger an old insecurity, they find that there is no hook left in you. You meet their chaos with a gentle, detached kindness or a simple, silent observation that makes their behavior look like a tantrum in the face of a mountain. Your radiance is not loud or flashy. It is a steady, warm glow that comes from being in total alignment with your purpose. This is the ultimate karma. The people who hurt you expected you to stay angry, to stay broken, or at the very least, to stay obsessed with them. Finding out that you are happy, genuinely, deeply at peace, is a far more painful realization for them than seeing you angry. Your happiness proves that they were never the center of your universe. They were just a lesson you've already mastered and moved past. You have reclaimed your life so thoroughly that you've reached the pinnacle of Sigma power. The ability to be perfectly content in your own skin, regardless of who is watching. You aren't just surviving. You are blooming in a garden of your own making, and the scent of your peace is a reminder to the world that you have finally won. As you step into the golden light of your newfound reality, remember that this radical reinvention was never a performance staged for the gallery of people who doubted you. It was not a revenge plot designed to make your enemies regret their choices, nor was it a desperate attempt to win back the approval of those who failed to see your value. This journey was an intimate, sacred pact made between you and the woman you saw in the mirror, the one who stood in the wreckage of her old life and realized she deserved so much more than what she was settling for. You chose to undergo the pain of the chrysalis because you knew that the only way to honor your potential was to burn down the limitations that were holding you back. This glow-up is the ultimate act of self-love, a testament to the fact that you have finally become your own highest priority. You are no longer waiting for someone to save you or validate your existence. You have rescued yourself, and in doing so, you have built a kingdom within that no one can take away. Let them be surprised when they see you again. Let them whisper in the hallways, and let them feel the weight of their own words as they realize the version of you they once knew has effectively ceased to exist. Let them feel those butterflies of realization, that cold, sinking feeling that they can never have access to this new, upgraded version of you. They might have been comfortable with the old you, the one they could predict or influence, but they are completely unprepared for the sovereign woman you have become. Their confusion is not your problem. It is simply the byproduct of your growth. You have outpaced their narrow perceptions and outgrown the boxes they tried to put you in. As a Sigma female, your greatest, most terrifying power is your ability to birth yourself as many times as it takes to get it right. You are not a static object. You are a living process of constant evolution, capable of shedding your skin whenever it becomes too tight for your expanding soul. You are now standing at the pinnacle of your transformation, stronger, brighter, and completely sovereign. This success is your karma to them. It is the silent, elegant proof that their absence was the very thing you needed to flourish. While they stayed the same, you became a masterpiece of your own making. You have turned your trauma into wisdom, your silence into strategy, and your isolation into a fortress of power. As you move forward, keep that internal flame burning with a fierce, protective intensity. Reinvent yourself until you are unrecognizable to those who hurt you, not because you are hiding, but because you have moved to a mountain they are physically incapable of climbing. If you are currently in your glow-up era, reclaiming your power and building your empire from the ashes, I want you to drop a fire emoji, in the comments to signal your strength to the community. Stay rare, stay focused on your own magnificent growth, and never let anyone's shadow dim your light. You have arrived. Thanks for watching.